Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Thoughts from the Round Table. I'm Jacob.
I'm Pierce.
And today, we're going to be exploring some toxicity on the internet.
And if you guys could take a guess, if you're sitting at home, I'd like you to play along for a minute. When you think toxicity on the internet, what platform comes to mind? I'm going to give you a minute. Think this through.
Do you want me to answer?
You know what, Jacob? Take this one for him.
Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter.
It's awful.
Is there a worse social media?
The only argument I think is probably out of the big four, which is Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. The only argument there is Reddit. And as someone who likes Reddit, as long as you stay on the right parts of Reddit, you'll be all right.
Yeah. Reddit's a lot different than Twitter. Because you can go into, depending on what subreddits you go to, you can have a really good time, or you can have a way worse time.
Like r/movies, probably my favorite Reddit subreddit right now. It's really good. Way better than anything on Twitter right now, that's for sure.
So, when we're talking about, toxicity on Twitter, a certain group of people, would you call them a group of people? A certain collective, or hive mind, as I've heard them referred to as, stands for big content creators. Is there a worse thing to be?
No.
Honestly. You, obsess and devote your entire life to, idolizing a creator who you don't know, who you never will know. It almost seems like a waste of time.
I would say that's exactly what it is. Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this, PewDiePie did a video on the guy who was a Jimin, the K-pop singer.
Mm-hmm.
He was a huge stan. And he did a bunch of plastic surgery so his face would look like his.
Ugh.
Yeah. And anyone who thinks in their mind that would be a good idea is a crazy person.
Yeah.
And there's really no way around it. And I don't know. I guess you see this with a lot of streamers because our generation is super big into streaming or into watching streams. I personally, not really. I just, not my thing, I guess. But some people are. More power to you. But the way they follow these people is strange. I think it's because it's so personal and they think that they're friends, so they say stuff that they would say to a close friend.
Yeah. Well, content creators are weird, right? Because they're not celebrities, but to our generation, they're almost more.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that same sort of intimidation, right? You feel like you can react to, you can interact with, people like Carson or, anyone in that. When I think stands, I think of, the SMP tweets section of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But any of one in that group, you almost feel like they're your equal. You can interact with them just because of how they carry themselves. But they are celebrities in, every form of the word, in my opinion. They have huge followings. Almost more than modern celebrities.
Yeah, I think we're seeing this is a culture shift where people used to idolize movie stars or sports stars. It's moving on to YouTubers and TikTokers.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite strange. I think part of the reason is because you see that and say, well, I could do that. I really think that's part of it.
I think that is. But if you put, say, if you took PewDiePie,
mm-hmm.
and you put him in a room, and then you put Ryan Reynolds in that same room, and then got a group of, this Gen Z and below, and stuck them in a fan base, who would they care about more? PewDiePie.
There's some about, this intimacy between, a content creator who does, videos or a podcast or something like that, where you think it's so real that you feel like you're friends, but you're not.
Yeah.
That's all those people that get Joe Rogan tattoos, the super real ones. That's weird. You aren't friends.
He fuels that, though.
Yeah.
He does fuel that, because he posts them on his Instagram.
He said he quit posting them, though.
Because people were doing it too much?
Yeah.
They're like, if I get a tattoo of Joe Rogan, I'll be featured on his Instagram.
Yeah.
And you get, like, clout chasers who don't actually, like, want a tattoo. They just want featured on his Instagram. But I think Joe's almost a different story because he's so old.
That's true.
In a way. I love Joe Rogan.
I do, too.
I think he's a great. One of my favorite podcasters. Favorite, like, I guess you'd call, like, internet celebrities. And he's a real celebrity, too.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it's like that intimacy thing. Like, you feel like you've sat in conversations with him, so you could go up to him and hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Which probably couldn't.
I don't know. I'm pretty big. I follow on Twitter because I don't want to see politics on my feed. Which, obviously, this has not turned out well for me. But I just decided to follow a bunch of content creators that I like. Because, I don't know, it's like people who follow celebrities. I enjoy these people. They make me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So I followed a bunch of them. And so, here in the past week, there's been just this huge drama. Because, do you know C-Scoop Cooper? He lived with Carson.
No.
Okay. Well, he said the N-word. Like, 3 years ago. And refused to apologize for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or not really refused to apologize. He's just not addressing it. Because it wasn't used in a racist way. And he's trying to be like anti-cancel culture. And so the stands found out, and they were demanding that all of that group, all of Lunch Club, like reprimand him, basically, and force him to apologize. And then Carson was like, I'm not your dad. You can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? And then they flipped out on him. And so he started like blocking them and crazy. It was going crazy. And then you obviously, if you don't know Cooper, you don't know Noah. But Noah came on and had this hilarious tweet. And he was talking about stance. And he ended it with never negotiate with terrorists. And they went ballistic. Because they thought he was calling them terrorists when he was just using it, the phrase, these people aren't going to be able to be reasoned with.
Yeah.
And so that's the phrase. That's the joke phrase. But they took it way out of hand. And it's just been like an absolute cesspool. And people are like, Carson doesn't appreciate all like the mental disorders and diseases that these people have. And they're having panic attacks. And Carson came out on stream and had this hilarious quote as well. He was like, he pulled up a tweet, right? Of this girl saying, having a panic attack because I'm just being blocked by my favorite content creators. And it was Carson's alt that blocked her. And he said, if you're having a panic attack because you got blocked from my Twitter, maybe get off the internet.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I don't know. There's really no way to like institute regulation on who should be allowed on the internet. But like a lot of people, you're way better off not on it. Like, for those of you who don't know, which is our favorite thing to say, but for those of you who don't know, I took a break from Twitter for a month. One, I felt like my time was used so much better. But Twitter, still to this day, is a cesspool of people who... How am I trying to word this? Of people who just really want the attention of others. So they'll say these clippy things or weird things to get people's attention. And when they don't get it, they're mad. And that's pretty much all Twitter is. And that's why you see like so many people hate Twitter. And what can you do about it though?
I don't think there's nothing Twitter can do. Because Twitter, like, by design, is like the platform where you can say anything. Like, there's porn on Twitter.
True.
There is legit porn on Twitter. Which, if you're going to Twitter for your porn, what are you doing? But what can Twitter do? Be like, ban crazy people?
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Everyone on Twitter's crazy. That place is a garbage fire. Yeah, so Twitter is a real cesspool. And the other day, it hit a little too close to home. IUPUI had a tweet. That's, in case you guys don't know.
My favorite phrase.
We go to school there. And, whatever. It's pretty nice. I like it. It's all right.
Are you stalling?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the tweet. Oh,
It's deleted.
Yep, it's officially deleted. I was
Yeah.
okay. So anyway, it was like one of those ladies, if this is your man, and then it lists like stuff about it. But in this case, it was like, ladies, if this is your man, and it was a guy wearing an IUPUI shirt with a mask on, for COVID. And it listed like if he washes his hands after touching often touch surfaces, wears a mask in public, has appropriate social distancing when he can. He's not your man. He's someone who's trying to protect people.
Respected member of the society.
Yeah, or something like that. It was, funny. I thought, like, genuinely, it was probably some social media intern who was like, oh, this is funny.
Mm-hmm.
It was. It had it actually had like a good retweet and like ratio. But, alas, you can't make a joke. Because in the comments, people were like, this is awful. Because what about women who aren't looking for a man?
What about women who aren't into men?
Shut
up!
Obviously, that's not. They're trying to make a joke. Why do you have to take everything so seriously? Obviously, not everyone is. If someone said, hey, baseball fans, something like that, that's like me being offended by that. I'm not a baseball fan.
Why are we not allowed to make jokes that deal with a man and a woman being attracted to each other anymore? You see it everywhere, though. Like, IUPUI is a perfect example of it, but you see it everywhere. Because people are like, well, what if that woman isn't attracted to anyone? What if a woman doesn't need a man? What if blah, blah. Good for that woman. Awesome. Good for that woman who likes other women. But if you're trying to make a meme, you know what I mean?
Clear. It's not
clear. Trying to be offensive. It's not like the social media intern is sitting there like cackling behind his desk, like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna make some lesbians real upset with this one.
Obviously, they were trying to make a joke. It was obviously lighthearted, and just a way to get IUPUI's message, which is, hey, we're gonna wear masks and social distance when we're back at school. I don't understand. And the part that floors me the most is that who the people in the comments were? Professors. Angry because they don't want their workplace tweeting stuff like this. Okay. One, who's the main audience to the IUPUI social media? Me. People like me.
Students.
Incoming students. No one cares. The percentage of people who saw that and were students who got offended, I feel like, are so low. But guess what? They took it down because they're scared of the small minority. Very small. Because at the end of the day, most people don't care.
And, I mean, that was proven by... It was a really liked tweet. IUPUI doesn't usually get a lot of likes.
I think it had close to 100 before it was taken down.
Yeah. When I looked at it, when it was still up, it had over 100. It had almost like, what was it, like 19 retweets? Or something like that?
Maybe even more.
And there were 7 comments. And each of the comments were angry and negative. But when you look, it's like 7 people compared to 100. Yeah. Obviously, there's a majority of people who thought, that's funny.
And here's a tweet from 4 hours ago, just to give you some IUPUI likes. This one's kind of serious, but 20 likes from 4 hours ago. I mean, it was a good tweet, but I understand, with something this big, we're trying to get a large group of people to like IUPUI and to think their social media is cool. Because really and truthfully, that's how you spread the word now. And any other company, right? Let's say Lilly, pharmaceutical, put that out. People are going to think that's funny. Mm-hmm. As someone who's halfway interested in the whole social media thing and getting analytics and getting people to check out your brand, that's how you do it. Because that's how our age likes brands. Like Slim Jim on Instagram. Just random memes, really. about Slim Jims that don't make any sense, and they comment on like stupid meme pages all the time. You know who likes that? People our age. I don't like Slim Jims, but I'd buy them just because I think that social media is funny.
Mm-hmm. I don't like Slim Jims at all, and I've bought them just to take a picture of them.
Long boy gang for life.
Long boy gang for life. I mean, that's good marketing. What what that intern did was good. Honestly, he made a good joke for a good cause that shouldn't have been offensive to anyone. And yet, the woke mob, which, listen, the woke mob, if anyone gets offended by that, it's a difference between being, no one cares if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, whatever. Those are normal people. These few on Twitter are like beyond that, who will find anything and everything and think that the person behind it meant it like maliciously. I think there's a difference between me typing out "fuck the gays" or me typing out a meme about a straight couple, right? That's not mean at all towards the gay people or that like the LGBT community.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. There was no ill intent there. But these people who will go on every tweet and bomb it and be like, well, you should be more blah, 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 blah. It's unhealthy. It can't be healthy for them.
And like, we look now with Twitter, we look at everything that historically happened. Like, even just a few years ago, a joke that was funny back then probably isn't funny now because of the new parameters we have set. Whether you think they're good or not, it's different. We can't view everything from a modern lens. Like, people, like, jokes that were said 20 years ago, people would be horrified now. And so we can't look at what people say that way.
I think the worst part about cancel culture, which is really when we talk about stans, when we talk about Twitter being a cesspool, when we talk about the woke mob, we're talking about one thing. And a thing that's just completely flooded us over the past few years, which is cancel culture. And I think one of the absolute worst things about this horrible part of our culture is its inability to accept that humans grow and they change. And that just because some little kid said the N-word on Call of Duty because he thought it was funny back when he was 12 doesn't mean that is him as an adult when his brain's fully formed and when his ability to rationalize and understand what it is he's saying, right? There's a big difference there, because when you're a kid, you don't understand what you're saying. If you say the N-word as a kid, right? Just for example, because that's the big thing that's always being talked about.
Right.
If you say the N-word as a kid, my bet is 80% of the time, you're not meaning it racist. You just think, this is a word I can't say, and because I'm a rebellious little shit, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
And then when you get older and you look back and you're like, ugh, did I say that? It's because you've grown as a person and you understand the meaning behind the word.
And the seriousness of it.
Why can't we accept that is a good thing?
I don't know.
We can't be perfect all the time.
Well, that's like, we see all this with like all these big YouTubers now, like Shane Dawson and Jenna Marbles. Both of them because they had racist videos in the past. But now, like, if you look at all of the big YouTubers, you would say, who are the two that are like really probably most driven towards social justice? I feel like they'd be up there. Like, Shane Dawson, he's gay. Like, he's the shining star of what liberals want, which, like, whether you think that's good or bad, it's your business. But, like, why would we get mad at him for a joke that he made 10 years ago that was funny back then? Because that's what we thought was funny. But now, like, it wouldn't be funny, and he knows that. He understands this is not appropriate now.
It's like the other day when we were in the midst of the ferocity of the Black Lives Matter movement, when it was at its, like, not to say that it's degraded at all, But when it was at its most like heavy social media presence, where like everything you'd look at was Black Lives Matter, most of that content was really good and really informative. I want to make that perfectly clear before people think that it's not. I'm not saying that was bad. I'm saying I did see one post that said, here are the movies you're allowed to watch now. Because these other movies made like back in the day, or with white leads or with white directors, are not, you can't watch them right now because that would degrade the movement. What? Does that make any sense? That's like saying that we can't watch The Jazz Singer because there's blackface in it. Yes, blackface is horrible. No one is denying that. But to take it out, or to say, oh, we're going to strike this from the air, is so stupid. They removed an episode of Community because it had blackface in it. Which, by the way, the person who made that call over at over at Netflix and Hulu obviously didn't watch the episode because it wasn't blackface, and it was actually like he was trying to be a dark elf. And as like it was in their Dungeons and Dragons episode. Was not blackface. And in the episode, the first thing that Shirley, who is like a black woman, she says to him is like, "We're gonna let that hate crime slide?" The joke was that it was awful, and then the group made him leave. The joke was blackface is bad. Why remove that? Why? You know what they said, Jacob? This is gonna piss you off. Because in that same article that I read, they said we should strike Lord of the Rings from the air. Should not play that movie, not talk about that movie. You know why? Because the orcs are dark-skinned.
That's just stupid.
They're orcs!
This is like a real problem that's happened in the last 20 years. We want, and this is both sides of the aisle, we want to politicize everything. Which is part of the reason I think our generation really likes YouTube. Because certain content creators, guess what? They don't politicize everything. And like, can I just watch, like, listen, Pierce and I love movies. We watch way more movies than the average person. There are sometimes you want to sit down and watch a movie and not say, well, how does this affect society and politics? But guess what? Everyone wants to do that. Everyone thinks that everything has to do with social change and making a political statement when it doesn't. And that's part of the reason Twitter's a cesspool. Because everything has to be about politics. Sports, movies, everything. Politics. No one cares. And that's why Twitter and social media is usually what you see. Take it with a grain of salt. Because the people who complain is probably about 3% of the people who actually find a problem with it, and 10% of the people who actually have like a problem with it are the ones on social media or whatever. Whatever Twitter says is generally not the consensus of the entire population.
Fair.
Yeah. So with that, I think it's time for us to wrap up our conversation on how crappy the internet has become. If you liked this podcast and you want to see us talk about more stuff like this, more hot topics, let us know.
If you want to watch us or listen to us talk about dumber, more dumbed down and stupid topics, also let us know. And let me tell you, we have quite the library for you to enjoy.
Yeah, so if you like our stuff, follow us on social media, subscribe on YouTube, rate us on Apple Podcasts, listen to all the episodes. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.